Okay, so
Good to go.
okay, so now we're starting to record. So I'm going to be reading from the teachings of the Buddha, and I've selected a couple of suttas. They're short, and they're from the numerical discourses. And there's a number of collections, if you're not familiar with this, teachings and arranged in different ways. And the numerical discourses, of course, would be having to do with how many elements are in the teaching. So there's a book of ones, and it'll say there's one thing that leads to liberation or something like that. And I'll have a whole list of these one things. But it's like if you're lacking that one thing, then you may not be successful. That was the way I interpreted that, because the literal mind. But this is in the book of threes. So if you love the suttas and you know how to navigate the suttas, it would be AN 3.101. So that's the Anguttara Nikaya, Book of Threes, 101. So this is Bhante Sujato's translation, and Bhante Sujato, he's translated this as a panner, like a gold panner, as it's working with the gold. And it's also translated as gold cleaner or washer. And he uses the word pan, but I looked at the Pali, and I've seen other translations. They talk about using a trough. And they take the gold ore, and it seems like it's broken up into fine bits, and it's put in a large pan, and then they put water over it. And it's going to describe this process and how this simile relates to refining the mind. We're refining the mind like you would refine gold. So it's actually a beautiful simile. Gold has coarse corruptions, sand, soil, and gravel. A panner or their apprentice pours it into a pan where they wash, rinse, and clean it. When that's been eliminated, when the coarse elements have been eliminated, there are medium corruptions in the gold. Fine grain and coarse sand. So these eliminated the coarser, and it's getting to be finer impurities. So the panner washes it again. When that's been eliminated, there are fine corruptions in the gold, fine sand and black grime. The panner washes it again. When that's been eliminated, only gold dust is left. A goldsmith, so then the gold panner, the washer, is done with their chore, and then they bring it to a goldsmith. A goldsmith or their apprentice places the gold in a crucible where they blow, melt, and smelt it. Still, the gold is not settled, and the dross is not totally gone. It's not pliable, workable, or radiant, but is brittle and not completely ready for working. But the goldsmith keeps on blowing, melting, and smelting it. The gold becomes pliable, workable, and radiant, not brittle, and ready to be worked. So they very patiently work with the gold. Then the goldsmith can successfully create any kind of ornament they want, whether it be a bracelet, earring, a necklace, or a golden garland. In the same way, a mendicant, this is Bhante Sujata's word for a bhikkhu, but it can include this, you can just think of a meditator or someone who's practicing meditation according to the Buddha's teaching. In the same way, a mendicant is committed, who is committed to the higher mind, has coarse corruptions. So the higher mind is samadhi. That's a really purity of mind. So this person is starting out on the path and they have coarse corruptions, bad bodily, verbal, and mental conduct. A sincere, capable mendicant gives these up, gets rid of, eliminates, and obliterates them. So this is the cleansing of the coarse corruptions. So it's not just of the mind, but it's through our body and speech. So the Buddha here is encouraging us to purify our behavior through body, speech, and mind. And at least keeping 5 precepts is essential. And this is, the first one is not killing, and second one is not stealing, and the third one is not committing any kind of actions that are harmful sexually. Is no sexual misbehavior that would harm oneself or others. And the fourth one is avoiding false and harmful speech. And the fifth one is avoiding intoxicants that dull the mind. So these are the 5 precepts, and these are really essential. So the monastics have quite a few more precepts to keep. But so a sincere, capable person gives up the corruptions of body, speech, and mind, the coarser corruptions. And he's using pretty strong language here. Eliminates and obliterates. But I think it's just making a certain amount of effort to purify our behavior with kindness and patience. It's when they've given up and eliminated, when the coarser corruptions are given up and eliminated, there are middling corruptions, sensual, malicious, or cruel thoughts. So now it's to the level of thought. So one may notice in oneself, even though we've hoped that we don't have this kind of thinking, that maybe anger or feeling of retribution or strong sensual desire rises in us while we're meditating. And this is quite a disturbance to our mind. Mind can't come to peacefulness if we have cruel thoughts or malicious or strong sensual desire. If as the mind is settling, if these things come up, then you can really, as you become more sensitive, then it's a little bit of the jarring experience. So just the observation of this disturbance of mind, it may be a motivating force to let go of these. So this is a gradual process of elimination. Obliterate sounds strong, but it's more that we want to completely let go of it. And through our persistent observation and then us letting it go, abandoning, not cultivating it, we can completely eliminate them, at least for a period of time during meditation. We can get to a point where the mind becomes peaceful and more still. When they've given up and eliminated these, only thoughts about, whoops, I skipped over one. There are fine corruptions, thoughts of family, country, and being looked up to. A sincere, capable mendicant gives these up, gets rid of, eliminates, and obliterates them. So the thoughts of family, if we're meditating and then we have thinking about, our family, our country, our self-esteem, these are all like socially oriented thoughts that may arise while we're meditating, and they're not in themselves unwholesome or bad or anything like that, but it's more that it's a disturbance of the mind still. It has to do with identity, our country, our family. It's all rooted in identity. So if we're seeking a very still, quiet, peaceful mind, just allowing those thoughts to fade away. It's not like we're really trying to forcibly. It sounds this way, the words are very strong, but and then I think it does talk about this in this particular sutta too, that using force is not helpful because that's also a disturbance of the mind. So just realizing it's a distraction. There's nothing really during the day. The day, of course, you'll think about your family, especially if you're living a family life. But during the time on the cushion meditating or doing walking meditation, then you just want to let go of all those concerns. So when those thoughts have been given up and eliminated, only thoughts about the teaching are left. This is Dhamma Vitaka. Thoughts about the Dhamma are left. Contemplation of the teaching remains. And it's an imperfection to insight. It also blocks the samadhi because there's still, the verbal formation is still there. There's still some amount of, even though this is actually quite wholesome thinking to consider the Dhamma, if you're wishing to have the stillness and quietness of mind, then any kind of thinking is a disturbance. And that immersion is not peaceful or sublime or tranquil or unified, but is held in place by forceful suppression. So they're trying to just force every other kind of thought away, perhaps. And there's still this thinking going on. It's still a distraction for this quite deep silence and stillness of the mind. So forceful suppression is not supportive of samadhi. And seeing how even these really subtle thoughts and thoughts of the Dhamma may be beautiful, but it's still stirring up the mind. And then just the ability to just even let go of that. Is what's supportive. But there comes a time when the mind is stilled internally. It settles, unifies, and becomes immersed in samadhi. So it's interesting here. It says there comes a time. So just patiently abandoning these different degrees of mental disturbances, just patiently allowing this to unfold over time, and just through our observation, our wise attention, and just aware of how it's getting more and more refined, and even the most refined kind of thought is keeping us from that stillness. But this naturally unfolds, and there comes a time when the mind is stilled internally, it settles, it unifies, it becomes immersed in samadhi. That immersion is peaceful and sublime and tranquil and unified, not held in place by forceful suppression. And then this is indicating, this sutta is indicating that after one has attained this really deep stillness of mind, at that point, they extend the mind to realize by insight each and everything that can be realized by insight. And they are capable of realizing those things, since each and every one is within range. So this is what this practice is promising. And then it goes through a whole list of insight knowledges that one can realize through this. But I'll just go through really quickly. Well, maybe not, because but there's psychic powers, and the psychic abilities are listed here. But the most important of these is the destruction of greed, hate, and delusion. Understanding karma, verses 3. Understanding one's own past lives and understanding karma. So they're capable of realizing these things, but I think that's the point I'm trying to make with this particular sutta, how it's a gradual process. And starting with the behaviors of body, speech, and mind, and then more and more refined thought will allow one's mind to really settle and be quiet. And then the capacity of the mind is then very powerful, and we can have the insight knowledge that leads us to complete freedom of from suffering. 7:23. This is an hour. An hour and a half. Okay. So this sutta, the second one, is related to the first. It has to do with gold again. Also, I wanted to mention that if you had a question, you could put it in the chat and we can look at it. And then after I read this sutta, we can have some time for meditation. So this one is called Foundations. That's how this is in the Anguttara Nikaya again, and it's actually number 3. It's AN 3102. And So it follows directly after, and it's about gold again. And it's the title in Pali is Nimitta Sutta. And Nimitta is often understood as a sign, and often it's seen as understood as a sign that precedes going into the jhanas. But it has other meaning, just like English words have more than one meaning. So foundation is one of the translations of nimitta, and there was a number of, I'll get to that. Let's see. A nimitta is a mark, a sign, a location, a mental image, and somewhere along the line,
Number 5.
it just says foundation.
Cause, reason, foundation, basis.
Cause, reason, foundation, or basis is further down. And the beautiful thing about Bhante Sujato's Sutta Central is we can get the Pali line by line or side by side with the his translation, and we can look up some of these words and see, oh yes, this is why he's translating it this way. I think nimitta means something else, but this is how he's translating nimitta. So we'll start with the sutta. This again is about meditation. So he's addressing the bhikkhus, but he's also addressing all of us mendicants. A mendicant committed to the higher mind should focus on 3 foundations from time to time. The foundation of immersion, which is how he translates samadhi. The foundation of exertion, and that paganha is similar to virya or energy, or it's a very similar word, but he's saying exertion, and the foundation of equanimity, which is upekkha nimittam. If a mendicant is dedicated to the higher mind, if a mendicant dedicated to the higher mind focuses solely on the foundation of immersion, it is likely their mind will incline to laziness. So if we're just focusing only on just stilling the mind, we might get kind of drowsy. Or, I mean, if it's so if we notice ourselves getting drowsy a lot, it's because we're putting too much emphasis on the mind being quiet. If they focus solely on the foundation of exertion, it's likely their mind will incline to restlessness. So there, sometimes I used to vacillate quite a bit between the mind becoming very restless, and then because of the activities of the day, it was naturally restless. And then I was trying to quiet the mind, and I would put this effort into quieting the mind, and then I fall asleep. It was like, so it was like vacillating back and forth and back and forth. So it's like maybe putting too much effort on trying to remedy it, and not allowing the, I mean, if I'm forcing my mind on the object of meditation, trying to quiet it, then it kind of, I wear myself out even Maybe the mind does become quiet eventually and on the breath, and then suddenly I'm falling over asleep. So, so that just to be able to find the balance to very gently adjust between these two. If the focus is solely on equanimity, this is the upekkha, it's likely the mind won't properly become immersed in samadhi for the ending of defilements. So I'm not sure how that one would be explained, because it does seem like balancing the two would bring about equanimity. But I think that when they're talking about upekkha, it'll actually, it's going to explain it further on, I realize. Upekkha is translated as looking on. So if we're only just looking on, then we won't enter into samadhi. But when a mendicant is dedicated to the higher mind, focuses from time to time on the foundation of immersion, the foundation of exertion, and the foundation of equanimity, their mind becomes pliable, workable, and radiant, not brittle, and has become rightly immersed in samadhi for the ending of defilements. It's like when a goldsmith or a goldsmith's apprentice prepares a forge, fires the crucible, picks up some gold with the tongs, which has been previously cleaned by the gold patter, picks up the gold with tongs and puts it in the crucible. From time to time, they fan it. From time to time, they sprinkle water on it. From time to time, they just watch over it. If they solely fanned it, the gold would likely get to be scorched. It would get overheated. So this is too much too much energy. If they solely sprinkled water on it, the gold would likely cool down. So it would cool down too quickly. It wouldn't be able to burn off all the dross. If they solely watched over it, the gold would likely not be properly processed. But when that goldsmith fans it from time to time, sprinkles water on it from time to time, and watches over it from time to time, that gold becomes pliable, workable, and radiant, not brittle, and ready to be worked. Then the goldsmith can successfully create any kind of ornament they want, whether a bracelet, earring, a necklace, or a golden garland. In the same way, a mendicant committed to higher mind should focus on these three foundations from time to time: the foundation of immersion, the foundation of exertion, and the foundation of equanimity. When a mendicant dedicated to the higher mind focuses from time to time on the foundation of immersion, the foundation of exertion, and the foundation of equanimity, their mind becomes pliable, workable, and radiant, not brittle. It has become rightly immersed in samadhi for the ending of defilements. They extend the mind to realize by insight each and everything that can be realized by insight, and they are capable of realizing those things, since each and every one is within their range. And then again, this is listing various insight knowledges and psychic powers. So it says, this is probably the most important thing is the destruction of the taints and realizing the knowledge and freedom. Wow. It says, may I realize the undefiled freedom of heart and freedom by wisdom in this very life, and live having realized it with my own insight due to the ending of defilements. They are capable of realizing these things since each and every one is within their range. So this is the promise of this practice. And so it's about keeping things in balance and the balance of the mind and the gradual process of eliminating the defilements. So, I don't know if there's any questions in the chat. I don't see.
No, they're not. So we'd probably go to meditation.
So we could go to meditation now, and just get yourself into a comfortable position that you can hold, ideally an upright position, if possible. If that's not possible, one that supports alertness. And I recommend starting with awareness of the body, some form of body scanning. But I won't do a guided meditation this time. I think seems like everyone knows what they're doing. Is that true? You have an object of meditation or something you're working with. But being aware of the present moment, the body in the present moment is really a helpful start to allow the mind to settle. And then going from a coarser physical experience to a more refined, either physical or mental object. So we can just sit quietly for the remainder of the period here. Oops. Well, thank you for joining us. And I realized I forgot to introduce ourselves earlier. I am Yannicka, and I'm Aya Sivijana. So it's nice meeting Carmen, and I don't know if, other people might be viewing through YouTube. Right? So wishing you a peaceful evening, and we'll just end. If you care to join us, we're going to bow towards this beautiful Buddha image here, just to represent the teacher that has passed down this teaching and our own potential for awakening. We're going to turn it up now towards the Buddha. If you have an image in your own environment, you could go if you care to. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ayas.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's good seeing you. I'm going to turn this recording off.